What's going on, guys? It's Raf here with another tutorial video. In this video we're going to be going over the airplanes in Montgomery County. You've got three different aircraft. You've got a Super Scooper. Now the benefit of the Super Scooper is it can hold a lot of water and it doesn't need to come back to the airport. It can land in the lake, which is up here. You can land, refill while you're basically scooping the water, and take off again and go do your drops. In the hangar you've got the spotter plane. The spotter plane is sort of the lead plane. It can spray a plume of smoke behind it, which can pretty much create a trail to guide the attack planes to follow that and do their drops. It's a good plane to use in multiplayer, but in single player it doesn't have much of a useful purpose other than just flying around. Now the fire plane is probably the most useful. This holds a large amount of retardant, which is a red substance you can drop ahead of the fire. It's not meant to extinguish the fire, but it's meant to prevent fire from spreading. So let's say you want to make a line quickly to prevent a fire from spreading in a certain direction. You can fly over the fire and drop the retardant in the plane. And you'll notice, I'll show in a little bit, the trees and the ground turn red to show you where you basically drop that line. So we're going to start with the Super Scooper. I'll go over the flight controls and as well as the best way to land in the lake, refill, and return to the airport. And then we'll go over the fire plane and the spotter plane as well. To get in the Super Scooper, you just spawn a firefighter. Eventually we do want to have pilot models, but you may need to jump to get in the Super Scooper, so you'll do a little jump, a little hop. Now you've got most of your important controls on the left side of the screen. The only ones I didn't list were WASD, which is your main, ailerons, elevator, and yeah. Q and E are your rudder. To taxi, if you want to taxi, you're going to need to use the rudder to taxi. So we'll go ahead and start the plane with I. I'm just going to turn down the game so you guys can continue to hear me. You can press L to turn on the lighting of the plane. So at night that looks pretty cool. So once your engines are spooled up, you can turn off the parking brake with X. Now all these controls can be mapped in the control mapper, as well as using joysticks and other external controllers. We'll be improving on all that as this public staging branch gets patched. So we'll go ahead and taxi to the runway. For takeoff and landing, we recommend you use flaps. So flaps can be put up and down with 1 and 2 keys. So now we've got our flaps, we're ready for takeoff. Once you're in the air, you can press G to bring the gear up. So when it's time to refill the Super Scooper, you want to do this approach. You want to make sure that you're lined up, basically flying above this barn and this brick house over here, and lined up with the lake here. This is going to be your best way to get as much water and still clear the takeoff. So you want to be full flaps, you want to be slow, bring the throttle back. So you can see there we did a really quick refill in the lake. We didn't have to stop, we didn't have to connect anything. That is the benefit of the Super Scooper and the reason why it is used worldwide for aerial firefighting. So now let's go do a drop. Now we're in our fire retardant plane, and it spawns in its refill area. So whenever you want to come and refill the fire retardant plane, you have to taxi back here. Anywhere in this general vicinity, once you're here, it will start refilling, and that's how you refill the fire retardant plane. So let's go ahead and get ready for takeoff. We've already got a forest fire going in Montgomery County, so we're gonna head over there. There's some structures that are in the immediate vicinity, so we're gonna want to do a drop to protect those structures. So we're gonna want to get in the air expeditiously. So using flaps will help you take off and land a lot easier. So immediately we can see where the fire is. We're going to want to plan our flight, so we want to run parallel to these houses and try to protect them. So we'll go full flaps, bring our speed slow, and try to aim as best as we can here. So we'll start dropping now. So you can see the trees that we hit. It wasn't really the most precise drop, but you can visually see from the sky where your drop was. So any trees or grass or anything that was in that area will not ignite anymore. Now it's very useful aircraft. The only downside is needing to refuel refill the retardant after each drop. So I'm going to show you guys the best approach to land, the easiest one. What you're going to want to do is begin by flying over the city towards the Montgomery County Fire Station. You want to fly pretty much over the police station towards the main fire station. So we'll go ahead and follow the route. Next thing you want to do is you want to look for this opening in the trees, which is over here, and you want to turn and begin to follow that. So you want to follow this opening in the trees as sort of a VFR marker. Now we'll go gear down, flaps full. Now as we see the highway come into view, we want to turn and intercept the highway. And as you do that, you'll see the runway come into sight, and you want to basically just follow right into the runway. And that is the best way to do an approach into the airport. There's other ways. If you're a skilled flight simmer, you can do it any way you want, but if you don't really have experience, that's the way that I recommend. It is a little challenging, but so now that we've taxied back to our refill area, simply taxi the plane into the general vicinity of the tanks over here, and you'll notice that your retardant volume is starting to go up. So you can just stop here real quick while it refills. And once you've done so, you can taxi back onto the runway and take off and go for another drop. And this is the spotter plane I mentioned earlier. I'm just going to show you guys sort of how it flies and the purpose behind it. Another thing I forgot to mention with the other aircraft is you can toggle your instruments. This will show your airspeed, an artificial horizon, your altimeter, your heading, your vertical speed, and your engine RPMs, as well as a turn coordinator. So if you're a pilot, you know what each of these means, and it can this is the lead plane. We can find the path we want to take and start making a smoke path for any aircraft behind us to follow to do their drop. So the aircraft behind us would try to stay on that line and do their drop.